Hi there, and welcome to today's Swirly Bottoms drawstring bag crochet tutorial. We are going to be making this bag today together. It's got a little bit of a boho flair to it. So the first thing that we're going to do is talk about what supplies we're going to need. We'll start with our notions. You're going to need a large eye needle for weaving in your ends. You're going to need a number 7 4.5 millimeter hook that's right between a G and an H. You're going to need at least 4 stitch markers, and you're going to need some scissors. All right, now let's talk yarn. All right, so you can use any number 4 worsted weight cotton or acrylic. It doesn't make a difference. I will say the acrylic gives you a little bit wider range of colors. I made this one out of acrylics that I had in my stash. Most of my bags are made out of cotton though. I just like the softness of it, and it's a nice sturdy fabric. Now, I'm going to tell you that for the medium bag that we are making today, you are going to need, if you're using cotton, you're going to need a full skein of one color, unless you want to mix and match your colors, kind of like I did in this bag here. I didn't have enough of any one of these to make a full bag, so I decided that I would just find colors that incorporated nicely together and have fun with it. All right, so anything else though, you're only going to need like 1 ounce. You barely need anything for the rest of this. I did also want to bring out, if you are really digging into your stash, like I've got some old stuff from Martha Stewart Crafts. It's a cotton hemp, and you're going to need like 3 to 3.5 ounces. This is a 1.75 ounce. I know that these two colors here would make, I can make the whole side with those. And I've got a little bit of extra left over for doing some striping. So I may use those today. You could also dig out your old Christmas stuff and make something that's really festive and fun coming up holidays. I did decide that for today's tutorial, I am going to go ahead and use these colors just because I like them. So this is going to be my main color because it is the one that I have the most of in my stash. And then I'm going to use the variegated and one of these other colors for the swirly bottom of our bag. And this is what our swirly bottom is going to look like. This is really fun to do and really addictive. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to begin at the beginning. We are going to start with a magic ring. And how I do that is I just wrap it around my fingers like this so that it crisscrosses. I go under the one and I grab and create a loop. You're going to want to grab onto that so it doesn't come unraveled. And then I chain 1. So the first thing that we're going to do is put a single crochet, a half double crochet, and 4 double crochets into this magic ring. So let's start with our single and our half double and 4 doubles. And 4. Okay, so this is where we're going to start using our stitch markers right away, because we're going to be working 2 colors simultaneously. I just don't want that loop to pull through in case I snag it on something. I'm going to pull this just a little bit tighter, because what I need to do now is grab my second color. I'm just going to loop it over my finger. And I'm going to add it to the circle carefully, and then chain 1. And I'm going to single crochet and catch that in as you're working in this circle. Single, half double, and 4 doubles. And now you might think that that started kind of ugly, but you know what? It's going to be all hidden in a minute, and it's not even going to matter. And that's 4 doubles. There we go. So we should have a total of 6 stitches on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so go ahead and put this guy on a stitch marker. And then we're going to take these and we're going to snug it up. Actually, if I pull on that blue one too hard, it's going to, so I'm just going to pull on the white one. There we go. Now don't get all like super tight in here, because we actually have to work into these stitches and we don't want to create problems for ourselves. So now this is color number 1. This is color number 2. We always want to start with color number 1. Take this off of the loop or yeah, take the stitch marker off the loop. Right now, the first thing that we're going to do is put 2 double crochets into each of the first 6 stitches of color number 2. Once we make this first set of doubles here into the first stitch, we want to take a moment and put that stitch marker into the first of those stitches, and that's going to come in play later. But go ahead and continue working into the remaining 5 stitches. And this is technically the beginning of your round 2, because it works just like any other time that you're working in a circle. The second row usually gets 2 of each stitch into the row below to increase. And if you're familiar with working in the round, it'll click in just a little bit as we start doing this again. Now, I'm going to take another one and I'm going to hold that stitch. This is why you need 4 of them. Okay. Now we're going to start the second color exactly like we did the first one. And we're going to put 2 double crochets into each of the first 6 stitches. Now, make sure to mark that first stitch. And continue on. Now here's why this particular stitch marker makes a difference, is because each time that we start a new round, we're going to mark the beginning of that round with this, because our second color works up to that stitch. And so instead of having to count every round, this is a visual reminder for you to end there. So we are putting 2 double crochets into each of the stitches leading up to that marker. All right. So we've got our circle started. I'm going to put my 4th stitch marker in place. And then we're going to move on to round 3. Now remember, you always want to start with color number 1. So even though we ended right here, we need to flip it around and go back to the other side of the eye. And we're going to take out both of these stitch markers. But here's what we're going to do. So each time that we start a new round, we're going to be increasing by 1 per round. So because we did 2 double crochets in the last round, we're going to increase by 1 by doing 2 double crochets in this one and then 1 double crochet into the next. We're going to treat this exactly like we did when we started it the last time. Put your first 2 double crochets in and then mark that first stitch with a stitch marker. The next stitch gets 1. And now you're going to do your increase stitch of 2 and then 1. And this is going to be the increase repeat, 2 and then 1. And we're doing that over to the end of color number 2, where there's a natural finish, because it just doesn't continue on. And then our last 2 stitches. And 1. Go ahead and put your stitch marker in. I know there's a lot of fiddling, but it's a lot of fun. All right, so we've got colors stacked on top of colors here. We're going to do the exact same thing that we did with color number 1. Take out the bottom 2 stitch markers and just set those aside because we're going to be using them right away again. Put your loop on. Now remember, we're taking color number 2 up to the stitch marker over here. So we're going to do that same repeat where it's 2 and then 1. But in our first ones, we're just going to pause a second and stick that stitch marker right back in there. And then continue on with our repeat. Okay, I've completed the last section of round 3. I'm just going to pull my bottom a little bit tighter so that it doesn't have that big hole in there anymore. At this point, you can go ahead and tuck those ends in if you want to secure them. I'm going to leave them for now, but we are going to start on round number 4. All right, and so we're just going to flip it, take it right back to color number 1 and set our stitch markers aside. Put our loop on. And remember, we always increase. So start with 2 in the first and put that stitch marker in to that first stitch. And now this one, because we increased 1 stitch last time, we're going to do 1 stitch into the next 2. So we'll increase, which means 2 and 1, and then 2 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2. Did that make sense, or did I just say that backwards? All right, 2 in 1, and then 1 in 2. There we go. I think that was better. 2 and 1. 1 into 2. All right, we're almost at the end here. So essentially the same, like this pattern just continues to repeat using the same methods for each new round. 2 and then 1 into each of the last 2 stitches. And then put this one onto a marker. All right, and then for the next one, we're going to remove these 2 and repeat that same technique. All right, now remember to put 2 into the first, mark your first stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the next 2. Continue that until the next marker. All right, we are ready to start the next round, and we are going to start the same way that we have been, with 2 in the first, and we're going to mark that first stitch. And now we are going to do 3 because the last time we did 2 double crochets. Now we have to increase it and do 3 in between our 2 double crochet increases. So here's our increase stitch, 1, 2, and now 3 individually, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, take that up to this stop. Okay, now we are going to go ahead and start on the second color using the exact same techniques as the first side. Putting 2 in the first. And marking that first stitch. and then putting 1 into the next 3 stitches. All right, go ahead and continue that pattern until you reach this stop. All right, we are about ready to start up on the next round, but I just wanted you to take a look at your swirl. This is such a fun pattern because it makes you look like a crochet genius and you aren't even working that hard. All right, so let's go ahead and start the next round. And we're going to start it like usual. Put 2 in the first. Mark your first stitch. And this one, because we did 3 on the last one, we're going to do 4 this time. One, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, increase. And into the next 4. Go ahead and continue that to your natural stop. And color number 2 with the same technique. 2 in the first. Mark the first stitch. And then 1 into the next 4. Continue that until you hit the first marker. All right, y'all, we are on the very last of these increase rounds that we're going to be doing to create our swirly bottom. So we are going to put 2 in the first. Mark our first stitch. And we did 4 in the last one, so this time we're doing 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, that brings us up to our next increase. We're going to continue that over till we hit the end of our color number 2. And then, of course, we're going to start color number 2 and do that to our first marker over here. All right, we have completed that last round. You should have 42 stitches of each of these colors, a total of 84 stitches before we move on. We're going to go ahead and close off the swirly bottom, and how we're going to do that is take out our stitch markers again, and you can go ahead and set these aside because we're not going to use them anymore after this. Now, to flatten off your edge, because if we stopped like this, it would just be weird. So we're going to do 2 double crochets. So 1, and then 2. We're going to do 2 half double crochets, half double crochet, and half double crochet, and then 2 singles, single, single, and now we're going to slip stitch in the last 2. And we're going to cut that color off. Now I left kind of a long end, but you can leave whatever you need. All right, so you can see how that flattens that circle out for you. We're going to do that to the other side so that we have just a usable circle. And it's got this fun swirly pattern in it. Once again, a double crochet into 2, a half double crochet into 2, a single into 2, and slip stitch into the last 2. Pull that through. All right. Now this is where this tutorial is going to end. We're going to use this in our next tutorial, but make sure that you've got 84 stitches going around before you move on.